Okay, we're ready to get started. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Kristen. I'll be your main moderator, and we also have Sam here who will be conducting like the back end rope. So, let's get started. So, the way I know these gentlemen, so Tyreek is actually my little brother. So, what's funny is I like to say, well, he kind of said that I kind of influenced him because in middle school I took band. And when he got to St. Cloud Middle School, that's when he started band. And that's basically how I see how he got started in music. And then Reggie, we met at Lake Nona Wave Hotel. I was a cocktail server, and he was one of the talents. He plays a live saxophone and he does covers, and it's honestly amazing. So, gentlemen, would you like to please introduce yourself a little bit further?
Sure. I'll go first. My name is Reggie, government name, Reginald Ellison. I am born and raised here in Florida. I am a professional musician. My primary instrument is the saxophone, and I have been playing music for about almost 28 years, and professionally for the last a little over 8 years.
That's good. Thank you. And Tyreek, if you would like to give a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Tyreek McDole. I'm, like Kristen said, her younger brother. I've been playing music since I was in sixth grade, joining the middle school band after Kristen was an oboist. That was super cool. Um, since then, I've been playing trumpet. I've been primarily a vocalist, but I also play classical percussion as well as West African percussion. And yeah, I also compose and do a bit of songwriting as well, in addition to education. So that should be about 10 years, I think. About 10 years since I started playing music, and I started working professionally when I was 18.
Very nice. Okay, so we're gonna follow in. Thank you, gentlemen, for introducing yourself. And I hope you guys learn a bit from Reggie or Reginald by his government name, and then Tyreek as well. So our first question is gonna be, what is your first experience with music? I know you gave a little bit of background on how you got started, Tyreek, and Reggie as well, but what was your very first time, like your first time touching the instrument and using it? What was that experience like for you? Or like the first time you finished your first musical piece? Because I know learning music is a little bit difficult. And once you finish that first note, like being able to play a full music piece, it just changes your life. So how was that for you? Reggie, if you'd like to go first, or Terry?
Sure. So my very first musical experience touching my instrument was when I was in sixth grade. It was on a Saturday, and I woke up Saturday morning, to do my usual routine: cereal, Saturday morning cartoons, and eventually go outside and play basketball. But this man showed up at my house, and he had this huge case. I had no idea what it was, and it was a saxophone. And I didn't know that my mom had reached out to like a local music shop, and bought me a saxophone. And so he came to drop it off, and he showed me how to put it together, how to play it, and I was all excited. Um, and when I first started playing it, it took me an hour to get a sound out of it. And then when I did, I was so excited. However, I sounded like a dying duck. It was just the most god awful sound you ever heard. I didn't care. I was happy to just have gotten a sound out of it. And that's how it all started.
It's good. My experience was kind of similar too. I didn't do band for too long, but after, well, playing the oboe is very difficult. But after you finish your first two notes of learning and finish your first musical piece, it really does change your life. All right, Tyreek, would you like to go with your experience?
Sure, I'd love to go. Um, I'd say that I've always been interested in music. So Kristen and I are Haitian background, our mother's Haitian. So we always had a real eclectic mix of music. Growing up, we'd listen to compa, but we'd also listen to Mark Anthony, and we'd listen to Mary J. Blige and a whole bunch of different kinds of artists. So I was already interested in what I was hearing in the car rides whenever we were growing up in St. Cloud. And I would say my first musical experience touching an instrument would be growing up. We would always get dropped off at my aunt's house, and she had this old white piano. It was actually so old it started to look cream colored.
Yes.
Uh, it was super out of tune. It sounded terrible, but I would always be back there. It was always tucked away, like on the other side of the house, away from a TV, which was super weird for any like 5 or 6 year old to be invested that much. But yeah, I always found myself drawn to trying to attempt to play music at the piano. Um, I would say that every time I touch a piano now, it's still a huge attempt, a lot of failure, but I, I always I always remember that as one of the first moments of really actively having music in my hands and being able to, you know, I'm responsible for that. And then after that, I saw that my sister joined the middle school band, and I was really jealous for, I think, what was it, 1 or 2 years that you did band?
2 years, because you're 2 grades below me.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
you were in elementary school asking to play my oboe, go to the band practices, the
mhm,
competitions. You always had interest, yes.
exactly, yeah. So Kristen would always bring home an oboe, and I was jealous because I actually wanted to play saxophone initially.
That is
Uh,
very true. You did.
that is, I was very avid about trying to play the saxophone, but I found my way eventually.
Great. Okay, so as we proceed through the questions, just to make it easier, Reggie, I'm going to have you go first, and following Tyreek would be. The next question is going to be, how did you develop your musical skills? We know you took classes and stuff like that, but going further past that, what made you want to develop more, and how did you do that without a teacher's guidance?
Um, well, uh, outside of outside of the school band, and I also did have a private. I had a private tutor for about 4 years. But if we're going outside of that, um, the bulk of my musical skills that I developed was in church. I was a church musician, so I learned how to, as we say in music, we learn how to play by ear. So there was no reading any sheet music. There was just hearing the music and being able to play within the musical key that whatever song we were playing was in. And so I learned that in church, and I started that when I was 11 and just kept up with that. So that kind of ran in tandem with studying how to read music in school and then learning how to play music by ear in church.
What about you, Tariq?
Sure. So, like I said before, I've been in band class since I was in the 6th grade. Um, I was studying how to play the trumpet initially, and then as I got into high school, that evolved into classical percussion, and then eventually like jazz or Black American music. But through that whole time, I would just join as many ensembles as I could because I didn't have the funds to get private lessons. But what I did do was actively research online. I gather a whole bunch of books, and I would also try to apply that in those different ensembles. So I was in the jazz band, I was in the marching band, I was in the pit orchestra, I was in the wind symphony. I did as many different styles as I could, and then I decided to pursue a bachelor's at the Oberlin Conservatory, and I'm in my senior year now. I'm about to graduate next month, actually. So yeah, I went on to complete complete my studies.
Very exciting. I believe, Reggie, you graduated from UCF in music, correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. So you guys both have like a background in studies in music, which is very great. And if any of the students in the live right now have any questions, feel free to drop it in the inbox. And at the end, we can have Reggie and Tyreek answer those questions if we do have extra time on hand. So, our next question was what other instruments you play? Tyreek, you already gave a background. Reggie, do you play anything else besides the saxophone?
Yes, I play my secondary instrument would be the piano and also the clarinet and the flute. Out of all of those, the flute would be my least played instrument and also the hardest. I have a very much a very big respect for flute players. For me, playing the flute is not easy. So
Yes, I can agree.
yeah, I didn't start learning the flute until college, and my flute professor, her name was Senora Garcia, and she was one of the most awesome flautists I've ever met. And she told me that my breathing was wrong. So she literally had me like lay on the floor. She put like a book on my abdomen, and she would have me do breathing exercises. And um like most, not generally speaking, but she was a woman, she loved to wear stilettos all the time, so she would like put her stiletto on top of the book that was on my abdomen, and she'd go, breathe, breathe, and I'd be trying to breathe, and she'd be like, suffocating me, but that's fine. But yeah, so piano, clarinet, and flute would be the other instruments that I play.
Awesome. I know when I first started out in band, I was like, I can play the flute. I can play the flute. It's easy. It is not easy because if you don't blow into the wind instrument correctly, you'll play the wrong note. So you always have to make sure your breathing is correct, your technique, your posture, everything plays a role when playing that. So let's go into our next one. What has been your favorite performance or tour so far?
Ooh. Okay, so this was actually really recently my favorite. It's really recently. So we're in April. Okay, last month um I got I got asked to go play for a birthday party, and I was out in the Dominican Republic in Punta Cana, and it was for, if you are if for anyone who's familiar with
Oh, Reggie, I think we're losing you a little bit.
rap artists. It's by the, oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you start over a little bit? I'm sorry. The connection was going out.
Yeah, no worries. So for anyone who is familiar with Latin rappers, back in the 90s and 2000s, there was a Latin rapper by the name of Fat Joe, and he's still current today. And his wife celebrates her birthday is in the middle of March, and so he was throwing a small intimate get together for his wife at this really nice beach villa in Punta Cana, and I got asked to go out there and play, and I played for them for a dinner, and I played for them poolside the following day. And it was just a small, intimate gatherings, about a dozen people there. But it was the most amazing and significant performance I had ever done, just because that was really my first time ever playing for a celebrity, if you will. And he totally dug it. As you know, I play covers. I've got a couple originals, but I play mostly covers. So I played a lot of stuff, and like everyone was singing along to like literally every song I did. So as a musician, it's great when you have that crowd interaction, that engagement, and especially when they know every song word for word and they just singing along and they're feeling the vibe. It's one of the greatest feelings, and for it to be such a such a well-known performer in his own right. It was whew. So yeah, that was my most significant one to date.
That's awesome. I remember seeing that on your Instagram, but I didn't know. So I see you're very discreet for who you perform for, which is great when you build your clientele. Because I had no idea. I just thought you were on vacation having fun, but you were actually working for a very known artist. So I think that's very cool to see, like from your journey, from your beginning age to now, to know that you're performing for celebrities. That's awesome. All right, Tyreek, would you like to go?
Cool.
Sure. Um, One of my favorite, I guess I have it in two parts. I would say recently, one of my favorite performances that I've had was in Harlem a few weeks ago. I'm actually in New York right now on a gig, but yeah, I would say it was at this club that I headlined. It's called Room 623, and I led my quintet. I don't have much experience band leading, so I was pretty nervous about it, but I think that was probably one of the best experiences
Hey,
that I've had.
I want to see if you can try and set up this live video. So can you like
Hey,
go to the
Brandon,
live
your
event
mic
on
is
Facebook
on.
and press the button that says set up live video?
Sorry, Braden.
Yeah, give me one second.
Brayden.
Oh, this is awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, now I want to just post the link because that's what this girl did.
Kristen, you can mute him.
Oh, how can I do that? Let's see.
I think like you have to like open his like the
Yeah,
participants.
okay, just got it.
There you go.
So good. We
All
don't
right,
get
that was a
about
little
that
fun
meeting,
interruption. It's okay, sorry.
so.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Tariq.
as I was saying, yeah, I got you. As I was saying, we were talking about band leading. So most of the time, like growing up, I was in other people's ensembles doing other people's visions. So I would learn a lot of music. But this time it was my turn to actually dictate what is the artistic vision of the show. What am I presenting? And with that came a lot of questions about like who am I as an artist? What is the message that I'm really trying to give to people? And a lot of those things were floating around in my head. But thankfully, I got a group of some of my favorite musicians in town. I was joined by Miguel Russell on drums. He's phenomenal. If you guys like drums just in general, I think he's like one of my favorite drummers. I was joined by Dan Finn, who actually I met while studying at the Oberlin Conservatory. And I also had Miles Lennox on piano, who I met through the essentially Ellington program at Jazz at Lincoln Center. So that night, I think we made some beautiful music. I saw a few people actually start tearing up towards the end, and it was a beautiful feeling to know that your art is moving people and that this study that you dedicated your life to is worthwhile.
Mhm.
And for the second part of that, my favorite tour that I went on, I've just started touring um, in the last 4 years. So I would say it's kind of hard because I just had my first national tour this past November. I did a tour of Florida, top down from Jacksonville all the way to Miami. And it was a mix of not only performances, but we also did master classes. I actually went back to my high school alma mater to give back to my community. I played in my hometown. So I was very thankful to be able to give back since this music has given me so much. And I'm also torn because I went on the road with an incredible jazz bassist. He's world-renowned bassist named Rodney Whitaker. He's actually the head of jazz studies at Michigan State University, and he was a former member of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. We just did a tour of Michigan where we went into Detroit and we did master classes and presentations of more like soulful music for elementary school students. And I thought that meant a lot because not only did I see myself in so many of the students, but I was moved knowing that I'm giving this impression of what the arts can mean for people, just culturally, culturally and spiritually. All these things are being met through the arts. So I'd say these are my favorite experiences that I've had thus far.
That's awesome. So going back, so this was actually not one of the planned questions, but I think it's very important for artists or anyone to recognize that one person in their life that influenced them. So who was that person or that scenario that made you want to pursue music? Or did anyone influence you actually?
Good question. Um, I have two older cousins. They're like my older brothers because I'm the oldest of two. So these are my two older cousins, that the big brothers I never had. They both play saxophone. And so before I ever played saxophone, they did. And I thought they were the coolest guys ever. I wanted to be like them. They're like, they're so cool. They have, they had back back when the style was the flat tops, and they wore like these cool glasses, and they were just the coolest guys ever, and they played saxophone. And so that's where it started for me. Was I wanted to be like them, so I wanted to play saxophone. So that's what motivated and gravitated me towards playing my specific instrument. So when I got put in band and they asked you what instrument you wanted to play, I already knew. There wasn't any trying to figure it out or let me try this one and this one and see which one I like better. It was, I already knew.
That's good. Tyreek?
So I would say my biggest influences would definitely firstly be my family. So like I said, my mom and my dad have great musical taste. And, I grew up just listening to great music and being inspired by that. My sister Kristen joined the band. So without that, I honestly wouldn't have known that I could even pick up an instrument if she hadn't done it first. So I'm always very grateful for that. I'm grateful for a lot of the artists, specifically I mean, most people call it jazz, but I like to refer to it as Black American music. A lot of those folks are, of course, African Americans. And I thought that folks like Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Lee Morgan, Terrence Blanchard, Miles Davis, like all these people who are Black, I saw myself in them, and I saw that I could be not only a great artist and be celebrated for it, but to be, a respected person, just period. So I'm always thankful for these heroes of mine for inspiring me to strive the furthest that I can.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Nicely said, gentlemen. Okay, so we are running out of time. So we only have 5 more minutes. So I just want to hit some key points for the topic because we are talking about developing your brand, building connections. So let's just hop right into it if you would like. How did you develop your brand and how did you start building connections, starting from a young age until like present day?
I didn't start really building my brand until about 2015. That's when my music career really started professionally. And I got some advice from another professional musician that I came across. And the advice he gave was to just keep playing. At first, I did not like that advice. I thought it was too simple at first. But in hindsight, uh, that's exactly what led me to where I am and how I made the connections. I've just kept playing. I've kept looking for opportunities to play, and I just kept playing. And I think that, coupled with the quality of music that I give, along with the ability of just being able to just naturally connect with people, has really been a great vehicle in getting my brand out there and just being able to go further.
Lovely.
Sure. I actually had a pretty similar experience when I was learning music. I learned it just for the love of it. I wasn't too interested in building a brand and necessarily making money off of it until a little bit later. But I did something fairly similar, like by going out to things that we call jam sessions. That's basically where we just meet other musicians to casually play music together and spontaneously play music together. Um, by that, I didn't realize what I was doing was called networking. I just met a whole bunch of great musicians that I like, made sure to get their contact information so that we could do it again and maybe work in a venue where we could get paid, something like that. Also, when it comes to building a brand, I would say right now, one of the biggest things that we all know about is TikTok. But for me, it was initially Instagram. Things like social media, just generally, have definitely been a huge tool to help me get my foot in the door for other places, because I could just show up in a random city and then no one ever know who I am and play well, and then that will work. But I could also just post what I'm doing at home onto my social media page, and it kind of acts as a portfolio for some. So it's kind of a portfolio like a business card, right? So I need to find a quote unquote jazz singer. I search up jazz singer, find me on Instagram. The first thing that you're going to see is vocalist, what I do, couple videos up front, and then the rest of my day, you know? So it's like a matter of not only, it's really just finding a place for people to find your work, right? So that's generally what I do.
Perfect. Well said, gentlemen. And I have one last question since we have a few more minutes. What advice could you give students to stay motivated? Because we all know in this day and age, it's hard to see other people on social media doing better than you are, and just basically kind of giving up on yourself in a sense, in a little bit. How do you keep yourself motivated and not compare yourself too much to others?
Oh, best advice I can give is a great way to not compare yourself to others is to compete against yourself. Be better than the previous version of you, whether that's on a daily basis, a weekly basis. Your only competition should really be you, the former you from yesterday, from last week, from last month, and last year. It's really hard to stay focused and keep that in front of you, especially in this day and age with social media and how it's very easy to just compare how far along you are or someone else is, especially if someone started doing similar or exactly what you're doing and they're further along than you are. You got to remember, you're on a different journey. Not everyone's walk and journey is not going to be the same as yours. Your purpose for what you're doing is going to be different from everyone else's. And you got to remember, what you see on social media is only just the surface. It may not necessarily be everyone. That person, even though they may be having all that success, truthfully, they may not have joy in their life. So as long as you keep that in your forefront, make sure you have joy in your life. Make sure that you find what makes you happy, you, and focus on that, and focus on just being a better you. It may sound cliche, but it works. And you'll find that if you try to compete against other people or continue comparing yourself to others, it's only gonna make your life hell. So save yourself the trouble, compete against yourself, and just try and be a better you.
Well, very well said, Reggie. I can completely agree with everything you said. Tyreek, we have about 1 minute. If you can sum up for something you can say really quick, and then we can say a fond farewell.
Sure. I would say, one, I echo everything that Reggie says. I agree. Those are all great points. But I also keep in mind that there's always going to be a bigger fish. So rather than, you know, let the ego take wing, why not just use that as inspiration to better your own craft? Because at the same time, there's space for everybody in the industry, depending on what you want to do, but there's space to be successful and to, if money is the goal, to make a living out of this. I have a great friend. Her name's Samara Joy. She actually just won 2 Grammys, which is pretty incredible when we're the same age. That's kind of intimidating, but at the same time, that gives me a lot of hope because we're doing a very similar thing. And that means that I might be able to do that in the future, potentially. And, you know, I always have this adage: what's for me will not pass me, and what passes me is not for me. So I think that I just got to keep in mind that everything is going to be all right and to just do you.
Yep, I completely agree with that. Just because it might not be, just because someone else is doing great doesn't mean that you won't be great in the future as well. So with that being said, Reggie, Tyreek, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. I hope everyone who is watching has learned something. I certainly have. You guys definitely inspired me. This interview was very touching, and I appreciate you for giving your time to me today, and as well for Sam. Sam, do you have anything you would like to say?
Nope, just thank you guys. Thank you for both taking time out of your busy day. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. And that's all. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Bye. Thank you, Reggie. Bye, Tyreek.
Bye.
Bye, Kristen. Bye, Sam. Bye, Reggie.
Bye, Tyreek. Bye.
Get each other's social medias. All right. Build connections, everyone. Bye.
Bye.